We should be live. As always, if you're joining in, let me know that you can hear me and see me in the chat. And while people are joining in, let me make sure that we are streaming in all the right places. So I'm going to do a quick check here. And we'll give a couple minutes for people to join in. And as you're joining, always say hello in the chat, maybe where you're watching from, why you're interested, or what you're building with AI, or specifically if you've tried Gemma 4 today is going to be the topic that we're discussing. Also, I'll probably mention this a couple times, but if you want to come on the stream, so usually a couple people end up coming up and talking, either discussing or showing projects that they built, you can message me on LinkedIn. And if you become a regular, then you can get added to a calendar where you get the invite link. So if you do want to come up and actually discuss in stream, you're welcome to. But a lot of people like to keep the discussion to the chat, and that's totally fine too. So say hello there. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on. And again, we'll really get going to the content here in a few minutes or a couple minutes as people join in. But the topic for this week is the Gemma 4 model. Did anyone get a chance to play around with it or read anything about it? Oh, let me double check one thing real quick. Give me 1 second here. And if you did play around with it, what do you think? Oh, cool. John's here. I'll bring him up. Welcome, John. How was your week?
It's been busy, but good.
Same. I was so swamped this week that I was worried I wouldn't even get enough time to really play around with Gemma 4, but I was able to carve out some time. And for anyone joining for the first time, the kind of stream is usually a lot of discussion around whether the topic is or tool, but then hopefully you also actually want to try building something with that tool, and you can present your demo if you want on stream, like John's been doing that, which has been awesome. We had Jay last week as well. And there is a Slack channel. So if you want to join the Slack, and then I post like a thread every week with the topic and share resources in there. And then you can put updates about like what you're working on. You can do that in the Slack channel. Totally optional. You could just build on your own and present it here or link to it in the chat or something like that. Up to you. And I know not everyone has the time to build on the topic every week, but I think it's been really fun, and it's been a really fun forcing function for me to have to carve out at least a little bit of time during the week and play around with that tool or topic.
Yeah, it's been a good learning experience for me. So I've really enjoyed spending some time and just getting creative, but also learning more about how to work with coding agents.
Oh, nice. Like Claude.
Yeah. I've caught him lying a few times, which is good.
Oh, for sure. And sometimes they'll go down a wrong direction. You gotta bring it back, being like, no, that's not the way to do this.
It's fun.
And then another call to action for people is if you have topics or tools that you've been interested in trying out, but maybe you haven't carved out the time and you would want to do so with this event with other people, because it's kind of more fun with other people, let us know in the chat, like what type of tool or topic have you seen that you want to dive into, and then you could dive in with other people during the week. Again, kind of the goal here is just spend like an hour at minimum trying out that thing. You can do quite a bit in an hour, especially if you are using something like Claude Code and you're building on it, or if you're just learning about that subject. Try to get like at least a focus hour, and that's kind of the premise of this. You're not going to be maybe an expert in the thing through the week, but you'll have hopefully broken down kind of getting started with it, like deploying a model, using it in a use case. So like this week, I was really interested in Gemma 4, using it for some visual applications. And so I actually did a little bit more visual applications and experimented with the different model types, which I'll go in and show. So usually we do like discussion a little bit on the topic and then show demos that people built and then keep discussing it again in the chat or in stream. And the chat is super quiet right now, but I see quite a few people have joined live. So somebody say hello in there. Make sure you can hear us. Mic is on. All right, so this week, I'm going to share these resources too. Everything can always be found. I think it's always pretty much linked inside the GitHub repo. Someone said, hello. Awesome. The chat is no longer empty. Niels is here. A few other people said hello, hello, hello. Awesome. Yeah. So keep talking in the chat. So if you have ideas or discussions or points you want to bring up, put them in there. And then again, everything's stored in this GitHub repo, including like links out. So there's some really good blog posts on the Gemma 4 model, which is the latest open source model from Google and Google DeepMind. I'm going to share a few blog articles that I thought were really, really good. We won't go through everything in excruciating detail here, but there's their official model card and announcement, which kind of discusses the models, the variations. So they actually have, I don't know why they only have, oh, these are the dense ones. They have, 4 variations that came out with this. E2B, which is I was like, what does the E stand for again? Effective parameters. They have a 2 billion parameter one, which is super small, relatively, for multimodal LMs that can run on, they say, edge devices. I haven't tried this yet on like a phone or a Raspberry Pi. If anyone has in the chat, let me know how it's worked. I want to try putting it on a Pi. And then they have the 4 billion parameter. And then they have a 31 billion dense one, which I was working with on a different project the other week, trying to get it to code, which I'll talk about my thoughts a little bit later, but really, really good at like planning and thinking. But then when I passed it a lot of context for like a more complex code project, it seemed like the thinking kind of really took over and almost would, at least the way I had it set up, again, this is just for me playing around with it for a little bit, it almost seemed like it would prefer its own like thinking knowledge over some context I passed it in. I'm not sure if there's some stuff I can do to kind of help override that a little bit. That was just my experience with it in a project. We can actually take a look at like what the thinking looks like and stuff with some of the demos that I built here if people want to take a look. You also get pretty big context windows. So the small ones on edge devices have 128K, which I think in one of the articles says something like, this kind of equivalent of I could be wrong, but I think it was like a 300-page type book, if that gives you a little bit of a mental model. And then the small ones too can do text, image, and audio processing as inputs. The larger ones don't do audio. But this one, I think, is probably what at least a lot of people in my circles are pretty excited about, is the 26 billion parameter, but active 4 billion parameter mixture of expert model. So it's a pretty large model overall, but it only uses 4 billion parameters at a time. So you can run this on pretty smaller devices. And just in my experimentation, like it's super fast on something like the DGX Spark versus the 31 billion parameter. Again, we can actually see it live here in a little bit. I can bring up demos if people want to kind of poke around at it with us live. The Hugging Face blog post, though, was really good. And it breaks down a lot of other use cases. So they talk a little bit what it is again. They had some ones in here. So like, whereas the object detection, I built a demo for this too. It works really good. The smaller ones don't work as good in some of my test cases, but I actually have a project that I want to do doing like auto labeling. And I think the 26 billion parameter one is going to be really good for that. They also tested generating code from a UI picture with pretty good results. Video understanding. This was one that I was really interested in for object detection and other purposes. I have a cool demo actually that we can look at if it works in the live stream, where it looks at a live webcam and then says what's happening in it. And it's pretty good. The 26 billion parameter one is pretty good at that. I'm excited to figure out some use cases for that as well. Really good at captioning. If you do the 31 billion parameter one and ask for details about an image, I was incredibly impressed with the results. And again, the 26 billion parameter active 4 billion is very good as well if you're putting this on smaller devices. Audio, there was one, I think it's in this section. They don't actually show the image, but some really impressive results, like giving it an image and asking like where the landmark is. So I think this was in Bangkok temple, and this is even just in the E2B, able to kind of understand where it was or likely where it was based on like what the architecture looked like. Just really impressive for a super, super small model. Like this, again, I haven't benchmarked it or ran it on a super small device, but theoretically you can run this on like your phone or Raspberry Pi potentially and get, actually on a Pi, I wonder what the tokens per second would be. I'm gonna have to test it out. And Neil said that they've been using the 26 billion one on their DGX Spark to code stuff up for Pandera. Has it worked really good for your Pandera use case? I was trying it, the 31 billion parameter, for building some examples with Flyte 2. And again, I need to experiment with more context passing and maybe refining that a little bit. But yeah, when I was getting to some code generation, again, just the way I was doing it, at least seemed like I was getting like the learn knowledge taking over some of the context a little bit with a lot of thinking, which we'll see some of the thinking examples. It does a lot of it. And you might want to play around with capping the thinking tokens, because it seems like, in my opinion, sometimes it can get a little out of hand and just think like forever on complex situations. So you want to say like only think for 1,000 tokens or whatever your cutoff point is, and then do an action. And then there's this one that I didn't get a chance to go in a deep dive here, but this article looks really good if you want to actually go into the architecture changes into Gemma. I think this is written by one of the DeepMind engineers that made it. A lot of great graphics as well. I didn't get to fully consume this and soak it all in, but I'm going to go read this later as well. Anyone else build with Gemma yet, or excited to build with Gemma? Again, it sounds like Neil's using the 26 billion parameter one. That's awesome. Anyone else try it yet? Or are they excited to try it? Again, it seems like I think like I think there was a benchmark image in one of these as well. I probably just went right by it. Maybe it wasn't in the Hugging Face one. It might have been in the Gemma card one. I guess it's not an image, but they have results here, and it ranks pretty high. Alexander says they have. How was it for you? Did you run into any issues like overthinking, not using context as well? Any tips or tricks that you found that makes it perform better in your use case? How was it for you, John, in your use case?
Yeah, in my use case, I found some issues. I would say I was really interested in well, it was super easy to connect up using their model as a service, and their Vertex API was pretty easy to authenticate. Didn't require any GPU on my end, but I was really interested in the vision aspect of it, specifically around can you describe photos, or basically can you find photos on keywords. So I put together a quick demo to do that, and what I found is it and I'll show some examples, but it was the descriptions were just too generic for me. Now maybe they would fit good for some people, but so for example, in describing a truck, right, it would just say it's a black truck, versus it's a GMC 3500, right?
Right.
So I would have been more excited, and actually Claude did that right out of the gate. Like Claude was almost too much description, but I kind of preferred that. And then in cases where I wanted it to find like here's a folder with 16 images, show me only the images that have a truck, right? Or it was a show me images that have an RV. So, and it gave me images that were not an RV, right? But it made the assumption that because it had pictures of an RV, that this interior shot was from an RV, so which in many cases it's true, because the interior shot was from an RV, but it also included a kitchen shot that wasn't from an RV. So, and I'll show those examples, but so just based on that rough estimate, I'd be like, this isn't production ready, just.
What was the parameter size for that one? I might have missed it if you said it.
The 26. Let me. We use the 26
Okay,
4B
cool.
IT. Yeah.
Yeah, with the I built like a vision application where I could just upload an image, ask questions about it. And this is the 31B here. And the 31B, I thought did like, I don't know how it would work in your application. I'd be curious to try it actually versus the 27B with the 4B activated, because the 31B is like really incredibly robust in its description on the reasoning. Here's like the thinking tokens before it's doing the actual answer here. Just asked it to describe this image that we're at GDC. This is me and some of the Union AI team. And if you read like the summary, it goes really into depth, and we'll even go into like what textures are things sometimes, and like all the text in all the places on the wall and all the t-shirts. So I'd be curious how it would work. I haven't tried it in the car example. But you can see it's thinking a lot before it's returning anything. And this is why I was saying sometimes in my use case, when I was using it for coding and I'd pass it a lot of context, it would think for like a long time, like just get stuck in this thinking loop. And then so I also put in this little demo, which again is in the GitHub if people want to go grab it. You can adjust the thinking budget. So if it's at 0, that's actually just unlimited, but then you can adjust the thinking tokens. So have it only think for 1,000 or whatever it is for your use case before it answers. Because again, this is a lot of thinking. If I'm just asking something pretty simple, like count the people or something like that, it might not need to think this much in there. And somebody said that Alexander said they had tried it. They're running on the HP version of the DGX Spark. That's like the same GPU, the Grace Blackwell 10, but just packaged with HP. I don't know if there's even really any difference besides the outer packaging. And then someone said they have not tried it, but they're excited to try it in their RAG system to see how it performs versus Gemini. Cool. Yeah, I didn't try it in RAG yet either. That was one application that I didn't build an example for here. You see the thinking does a lot. The 26B does. Let's try that real quick. So there's a really descriptive output. I won't read the entire thing, but you can see it's a group photo of 7 people standing in front of a promotional booth, what appears to be a professional conference or trade show. That is true. And then it goes a lot into the background. It describes the background quite a bit. Vertical banner. It actually reads out what the text is, which is pretty cool. And a purple cartoon dragon mascot. That's pretty cool too. The lower left, there's a clean white minimalist counter. True. Yeah, and then describes like each person, which is pretty interesting. But it works good too, like for, so a use case that I actually have that I want to build something for is object detection. I'll try the 26B here, and then you could do like person. So actually I want to use this to do like some auto labeling for a super lightweight object detection model. And I wanted to build, use this model in like a data annotation tool, so I don't have to annotate all the data. So I ask it for person. This is the 26B one, and it does a really good job. And maybe even hard to see here, but even if I was just looking at this as a person, like it understands that this arm connects to that person better than I would have just glancing at it. Like I almost think the arm goes to this person, but it's not. So it does a pretty good job of doing like basic labeling. I will say, go back to the lighter weight ones, and it does not do nearly.
You guys are buff.
It does not do nearly as good of a job labeling. So it threw person squares around there, but not really around the people. So I understood they were in there. So I'm not going to use the lightweight one. I think you have to use one of the heavier ones there. And then, so I have several examples if people want to go poke around in the repo as well. I played around with chatbot. This is really good if you want to just check out like what it's thinking, kind of use that as like debugging and seeing how it reacts to responses. There's a vision one that I just showed. There's a extraction one. So I was trying like using one of the lightweight models to extract something from like a receipt type of format text and then put it in like JSON schema. I have a docs one where you can dump in a doc up to obviously a certain amount of context and then ask questions about it. That was interesting too, to see again how well it performs with just the context piece. And then an agent one to test kind of basic tool calling. It did pretty good, even though lightweight ones and there's not a ton of tools, so at a certain point it might struggle. And then a voice one, so the smaller models can transcribe the audio. So if you want to check that out, that actually worked very good as well. And so I made a little thing that just takes audio in, can generate audio back. And then a webcam one, which does a live thing, which actually I'll show that real quick if you want. And then you can go in your demo, John. Let's see what live webcam. I thought this was cool. I'm going to see how this will actually work with doing the live stream at the same time. I'm not sure if it's going to break anything using the 2 cameras or 1 camera to do a stream. Let's see. Oops. Well, it's using my other camera. I guess let's let's see how this works. You have to hit record and then start on here. And then, oh, let me do the 26B actually. Sorry, let me reload this. 26B. This one was working pretty good. Let's see. Let me try one more time real quick. All right, it's working now, I think. And then you should get a response back. So it says, it describes me. And then I'm keeping context here too. So it actually kind of say like what's been happening in the last 5 kind of runs or whatever. And this is the 26B one, which is running really fast. And so I just have this run every several frames. And then it says like any changes, which I think is really cool, having the context in there with the narrative. Otherwise, you can hit independent and we'll just independently do frame per frame. But it's cool seeing like, oh, now he held a mug closer. Now it's further away. I think this would be really cool for like a home security system is something I've been thinking about building, and having descriptions like of this over time, I think would be really cool. And this is the 26 billion parameter, 4 billion active. So you see how fast it is. The 31 billion takes quite a bit more time. I thought this was really, really cool though, because it does a good job of like finding words and stuff too on here. Let's see if it detects this. Nope. I think there's a little bit of a lag between the between what it's seeing and what you're seeing in the camera. That'd be something I need to probably fix. But I thought this is awesome. Oh yeah, and someone said robotics, something I'm very excited for. I mentioned Raspberry Pi. We've talked about robotics in past streams as well. I would love to try this in a robotic application. And in the Hugging Face post, they actually talk about using it with training it with reinforcement learning to do like a driving type of thing. So I think there's a lot of really, really cool applications for this. And it's open. It's under the Apache license too, which is awesome. So I think there's really, really cool use cases for this type of model. I'm really excited to explore the kind of like the robotics side and this is like visual application side. So I think this was like the favorite kind of demo that I did, that I was just like, this is awesome and incredibly fast. And there's probably some really, really cool stuff we could do. Someone said very fast, nice, wow. Robotics, nice. We watch our nonverbal son with live camera, and it would be cool to have. He's by the fridge alert. Yeah, I think there's a lot of really cool applications for this, like for smart cameras, right? And you could probably even have them with a location defined or something like that if you're setting them up around your house and see like someone was in this room and then they clearly went to this other room, and then keeping that kind of context in the loop would be really interesting. I have the other demos, but John, if you want to show yours, I think I showed the ones that I was most interested in. If people want to see other ones, we can. Oh, John left, but hopefully he's gonna come back here. He might have accidentally hit like hang up instead of share screen. I know I've done that before. Actually, the leaving button on StreamYard does kind of look like a sharing button. So that's my guess that happened. Oh, someone said they're a little late. What hardware am I using? So currently I'm just running this on the DGX Spark. So it's a pretty robust GPU. I haven't run it yet on like a limited hardware. But if you read the release card too, it already works on like Mac hardware, the MLX. So one of my friends is running them just on his M2, I think. So, and he's had pretty good results with it. Welcome back.
Hey, I hit the wrong button.
I figured. I was just saying that button looks like a sharing button. Kind of.
Thank you for your back. You're a good teammate. Thank you.
Do you want to share your
There you
screen?
go. Yeah, I'm working on it. Thanks.
Oh yeah, no rush, no rush.
Let's see here.
Has anyone in the chat tried Gemma yet on one of the on more constrained hardware? Oh, let me get your screen up. For some reason, it's not popping up yet.
All right, I'm sharing.
I don't see it yet on screen. Oh, and you're a little choppy now. We'll give a minute to see if this stabilizes. It's coming up. It's coming up. It's there. To quote the gorillas. I see it.
Nice. Yeah, so within the AI Build and Learn project, there's the topic for Gemma 4, and within there, my project was the Gemma 4 Smart Gallery. And let's see, you get all your information within the research.md. That's basically what was my research path on this. And then the README will give you an overview of the entire project. At the end of the day, it was just about, I'm thinking, I always have thousands of pictures. And then I go, gosh, you know, I want to find that one picture, but I don't want to scroll through everything. And there may be software that does that. And I know, you know, when you take pictures, you can tag them. I generally don't do that. I just get my pictures on a drive somewhere. So the goal here was to use Gemma 4 to do that. I was also focused on, can I connect up easily? And within the research.md, I give some explanation in terms of how to do that easily through just through Google natively, so using their Vertex, model garden, very straightforward. Create your GCP account, go in there, enable it for Gemma 4, and then using model as a service, very, very straightforward. So I'm not relying on Hugging Face. I'm not relying on a middleman to do anything. It's just a client that is interacting, directly with Google through everything they offer, and getting to their model. So just super straightforward, super easy. So there's some detailed information there. My findings overall, there were two features. There was one, generate description, and another for search. And they're decoupled. They're decoupled features, meaning here we generated descriptions, and this folder had 16 images. I tested up to about 50 images. Took, it took around nine minutes to do 50 images. 16 images, it's just 2 or 3 minutes. I had other motivations as well. Like, I'm very interested in Flyte, just kind of learning, how to create jobs that show up in Flyte and really well. So, here I enabled the Flyte TUI, and I could see through this 16 job run, you can, kind of see in here per every picture, it's creating a Flyte task. And then there's tasks before that are, basically set up and write to a database task. Did the same with, Sage enabled me for Union, their platform last night. So I was also curious, well, can I connect up and get my job shown through Union? And I was partially successful there. So let's see here. I have a couple jobs here. So and this as my test bed. So back to, I won't run it, not because it doesn't work, but because I don't want to risk breaking the stream. I will show you some examples. I wasn't as impressed with what I was. So here I'm just going to show you some quick screens. And so here you can see the difference between the description of the RV and the truck by the ocean. Yes, that's my RV and my truck, and not my ocean. But you can see the difference between what this 26B model offered versus Claude out of the box. So I was impressed with Claude because down here you can see it's a heavy duty, likely a 2500 or 3500. So it didn't automatically assume. It just was like it was very accurate in that aspect. So none of those details exist in this picture, and it's kind of the same with all the other pictures. The other thing I found was, I asked it, well, which ones just have an RV in it? I liked how it gave the type of RV. It's an outdoors RV, and it was actually very accurate on the model as well. So we go back here and I'll spend about 30 more seconds and be done, to the search section. So here I searched for ocean, and very accurate with delivering pictures that were an ocean. Before that, if I searched for just RV, and I'm just going to run it and take a chance here. Hope it doesn't break me. It wouldn't just give me pictures of the RV. It would make assumptions. Like it gave me the interior of an RV, which was fine. I think that's pretty accurate, but it also gave me a picture of a kitchen that had nothing to do with the RV. So I feel like the model's making assumptions based on, oh, there's an RV here, so that kitchen must be part of the RV too. That's my guess. So it's got one more image to go.
What hardware is this running on for you?
This is my local desktop, and it's just calling the it's using model as a service with Google.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, so here you can see this black picture, or this picture with the floor. That's the interior of the RV. This window is the interior of the RV. We thought we had a leak, but we really didn't. The dog just spilled his water. This bottom one it gave this picture of a kitchen. Well, that kitchen is in a hotel, and so there I would say, well, that's a miss, right? So there's a few examples like that I was able to, just with the types of pictures that I selected, kind of click it, right? So
cool. That's
overall fun project for me. Lots of I got to play around with the Flyte TUI. We reused our Gradio work from past experiences, and then got connected up to use Gemma 4 just natively through owning a Google account. It was really a few clicks, and we were in using it. So
super cool. How do you like the Flyte TUI for workflows?
The Flyte.
Yeah.
Since you asked a question, and then maybe I'll pick your brain later.
I think
I'm trying to figure out within these works of the work, it's essentially separated by the action, and I'm not able to figure that out.
So your screen went away and you broke up.
Okay, I'm back.
But you're back now. What was, maybe without sharing the screen, what was the question on the kind of workflow?
Yeah. So it's doing a good job of breaking it out into tasks. I figured that out, right? Every action is a task. What I'm not, so if I select search, I want to see a top level, search, and then underneath that search, all the tasks within that search. So if I tell it to describe, if I hit search and there's 16 images, I'm trying to figure out how I have a top level object in the TUI that is, search one, and then within there, there's all the actions within. So the same thing within describe. So right now it's doing a great. I have it to where I see every task, but I can't look at the TUI and know, was this the first time I hit describe or the 5th time I hit describe? I don't know. I don't know if that's something that I have to do to explicitly call out in as a Flyte like decorator, or is it that's where I'm a little bit stuck. So
like you want it in the title,
yeah,
kind of
something like that. I don't
not just the order.
Yeah, I'm sure folks do it. So, but I'll play around with a little bit more. So.
Yeah, well, feel free to pick our brains in the Slack channel too.
the actual aspect of being able to see task by task, drill into it, very, very, very useful. So
let me see too. So I just brought up the chatbot version. If anyone has any things they want to try to ask Gemma and see how fast. So someone actually in the chat, some people have asked questions. Let me catch up there real quick. While you were talking, I think someone said, what is the token output rate for the DGX on this model? I haven't tested the token rate specifically, just eyeballing, literally seeing how fast it returns is pretty fast. I can show you between like the 31B. If you know, if in Olama there's a command for counting how fast tokens are, I can actually run that right now. Maybe I'll look that up in a second too. And someone said they didn't know how to measure it accurately, but it was usable. Oh, and they were talking about running it on a old mini PC that it worked pretty well. And I don't know what version the how many billion parameters they were talking about there. So is that somebody else said it needs tweaking, but they tried the 31 billion 8-bit, so quantized version, and got low tokens per second. 4-bit is much better. And someone said, what would be the best coding setup considering we're using Gemma? I mean, I think it just depends on what hardware you have. Like we were saying, I don't know the benchmarks for every hardware piece, and it seems like a lot of people are having pretty good success running the, like my friend with the M2 has been running the 27 billion parameter, 4 billion active, I think, on an M2 MacBook with like 32 gigs of RAM. So not super insane. And I don't know their tokens per second, but they've been using it as like a chatbot type of thing, and it's working pretty good, is what people are saying. And somebody asked a question, I think for you, John, was were the images batched up? It's interesting. It assumed the kitchen was an RV. I assumed it did like a query per image in your project.
Yeah. Every image was a task. So every image had a unique call. So
just to show you, I guess, and if people have other things they want to discuss, let us know in the chat, or the other projects if you want to take a look at them. And let me refresh this actually. So this, we can look real quick, like time difference between this is a 31B with thinking on and with just maximum amount of thinking. So we'll even just say, what is in ant? Actually, sometimes I like to put a slight grammatical error in here. So like, what is a ant? And you'll see the thinking tokens will start spinning up here. The first time we run the model, sometimes it takes a minute to warm it up. Question, what is an ant? And then it's going to think for a long time. Like I was saying, it does a good job of thinking, which can be really good, but there's times where, again, you might want to cut it off, which is great. You can do that easily by just capping the tokens. And then we can do the same thing. I'll refresh it and then do the smallest model, and you'll see. So this is the 31B running on the DGX Spark. So I don't know what the tokens per second is here. It's very usable fast in my opinion. Like this is pretty good. If you want really, really fast, we can actually look at the, let's do the 2B and then maybe the 27B. So what is a ant? Same slight grammatical error. Sometimes it thinks like, oh, they asked about it wrong. So this is the 2 billion. You can see it's just spitting out tokens incredibly fast here, which is really cool. And then let's do the 26 billion. Refresh again so it doesn't have previous context. And from what I found in like the image use cases, this does token generation pretty fast on here too. I don't think we ran this one yet, so it might be loading it in Olama, which takes a second. But now the token generation here is quite a bit faster than the 31B. And you can see it still does quite a bit of thinking, almost just as much actually as the 31B there. And somebody asked, and Niels answered, I believe, what would be the best workflow to produce a distilled version of Gemma with reinforcement learning for a specific task? And Niels said, probably, actually, I can highlight the comment. Forget I can do that here. So probably via a library like TRL or Unsloth with LoRa or another parameter efficient method. Then reinforcement learning. There's OpenEnv if you want an actual environment, which, by the way, a few weeks ago, we did OpenEnv as our stream. So if you are following along in the repo, there's actually some examples. John actually had a really cool example of using the OpenEnv as like what did you use it for again? It was like a coding environment or training environment.
Yeah.
An agent environment. Not just a training environment. Sorry, yeah, not a training environment, an agent environment.
It was an agent environment. Did the web search through Tbilisi.
Yeah, and then in the blog post, back to Niels's point too, they mentioned the TRL. I don't know if they linked out to anything here. But they talk about a little bit. Yeah, this makes it easy to use, like bits and bytes. In PEFT, which is the parameter efficient fine tuning or parameter efficient, fine tuning library from Hugging Face and Bits and Bytes. I think it's from Hugging Face as well for like quantizing. So someone else had mentioned using like different quantized versions of it, like the 4-bit and 8-bit already. You can do that, and then you can train to like a LoRa on it. I think Niels mentioned that potentially, yeah. So on a quantized version, and then you can use TRL, which is the other library, which makes it pretty easy from Hugging Face to do like reinforcement learning type of pipelines. And then they're also contributors to the OpenEnv environment that we just mentioned as well, which I think they're doing hackathon this weekend. And I think we'll see some cool stuff come out of it because it's a super new library or environment. But I think in here, there was, so this fine-tuned TRL section, if you search for TRL in the Hugging Face blog, it sounds cool. I didn't do it yet. I didn't do any fine tuning on this. That would be another thing I want to eventually do. And I'll probably do that with the Flyte or Union and maybe even do like a workshop on it, which I think would be pretty fun. But they have the TRL section and they talk about training it in this Carla simulator. I forget what that stands for, but it's a self-driving car. I don't know if it says what it stands for, but this is like a self-driving car simulator. Obviously, I think simplified than a probably a bigger environment, but they fine tune it with TRL to be able to drive a car and have a reward signal of like not crashing into a pedestrian. Or if you do crash into a pedestrian, that's a bad reward. And then they also talk about Unsloth, which Niels mentioned here as well. So actually TRL, Unsloth, all in this blog post. And you can go, they even have like starter snippets, I think, for most of that stuff if you want to try it out. There was a thing, I forget if it was in the blog post or a comment. It actually might even be this top comment that I was reading that is kind of interesting. Oh yeah, I think it was this one. So that, yeah. So they're talking about, because if you're using LLMs to control hardware, that's pretty interesting, right? I mean, do you trust, in a lot of fun applications, I'm sure it's fine, like if I was doing a personal robot type of thing. But if you're actually doing a self-driving car with an LLM model right now, it's probably pretty scary. But there's a cool stuff going on in the open source community already around this, like specifically for Gemma in this case, but I assume for any of the other lightweight open models that you might want to put on devices. So they have like a middleware layer that sits in between the Gemma function call and then the actual tool execution, and then tries to classify actions, like if it's good or bad, and blocks anything that it thinks is bad. So interesting to think about these other layers in between these other action calls between LMs. I think that'll be pretty interesting to see too, talking about the edge and robotics case here that people in the chat seemed kind of excited about too. So yeah, LMs coming to physical AI. Do you trust them? We'll find out. Neil said the time for training depends on the complexity of the environment. In his experience, anywhere between a few days to weeks. And if you're using fairly mature frameworks like TRL and Unsloth, that generally the code is correct, and pitfalls have to do with data bugs, environment bugs, or challenging reward design. And I think I missed what the question was for that. What would the typical time for training such a model? Is there any pitfalls? Yeah, I think it depends a lot on the, just like Neil's saying, environment and data. Someone says, has anyone tried using Gemma 4 in a open claw-like harness? I have not. Has anyone in the chat? Also, just noting, there was two or three models that came out this week too that also sound really good, maybe at slightly different things. There was a new Kimi model. Kimi, I think, was it 2.6, that people are saying is really good at coding. So I'm actually interested, like I was saying, how I was running into some issues with the 31 billion parameter Gemma for some of the coding stuff that I was trying to have it do. And I'm interested of trying out having Gemma 4 like generate the plan and then maybe hand off the actual coding part to Kimi 2.6 and see how that works. And then also the new Quinn model came out as well. There was the I forget the number of that one. It's also, is it 3? Is it 2? I forget. Another 3 or 2 point something, which I haven't dived into. So a lot of other cool, fairly lightweight open models came out this week, if that's something you want to check out. And then I know also yesterday, ChatGPT 5.5 came out. Oh, and I remember the third open source model was DeepSeek, I think V4 or 3.4. Again, I forget all the numbers. That came out like last night as I was sleeping too. So there's 3 open models that are out in the past couple days, and a new GPT on OpenAI. Someone said, dang, AI is moving fast. It's hard to keep up. I know, I can't. It's hard to test them. Part of why I actually had started this kind of just weekly stream, because I wanted to have some sort of deadline for myself. And if anyone else wants to join in with these topics, like there's so many things coming out. If you spend an hour or something like that playing with it, I feel like it's a fun way to kind of keep up a little bit and keep learning. Also, I guess as a question for people, do you think we should do more models like this on the stream? Like when a new one came out, like Kimi 2.5, should we take a look at that? The next one that we have actually up here is vector stores. So people were asking about using vector stores for longer context inside agents or for RAG. So I thought that'd be a fun one if people want to build a project with that and then talk about it. Again, you don't have to, but encourage you to join the Slack channel. Also, I try to post a lot of interesting news in there. So all those open models, like I know I posted in there, Niels has been posting in there. There's quite a few people in there. So the AI news channel, usually there's a lot going on. But if you have project ideas, topic ideas, let me know. I'm about to book the next wave of these, like 3 out or something like that. People also wanted to do graph databases for like graph RAG or graph context. I think that's going to be really cool. So if anyone has any other topics that they want to discuss and like either see another stream like this, participate in a stream like this, build a project around it, hopefully, let me know. Let us know in the chat what you want to kind of visit next. And like I mentioned, our model one's interesting. Like this one, checking it out, building an example with it. I had a lot of fun building the examples. I don't know if people want to, see similar examples again with Kimi 2.6, or if you want more completely different topics. Is a good way to keep up with models coming out, let me know. John, do you have any other topic ideas that you've been interested in?
Let me think on. There's a lot I'm interested in. I think I'm still. I'll chime in. So I really am looking forward to the vector stores one, because I already have some ideas on that. So I'm enjoying picking up off of your thought process there, or even the audience. So
yeah,
allows me to focus just on the project aspect.
yeah. No worries.
So,
it's been really fun.
I've been on the other side so many times. I kind of like it.
And Patrick said, this is super interesting. The RAG stuff will be interesting. They've been using Chroma mostly. Interested in seeing how others chunk the data. Yeah, there's so many different ways to chunk and build RAG systems. And for that one specifically too, you can use whatever vector store you want. People didn't have a specific one they wanted to try. And in my experience, a lot of them are pretty similar. Like you can come up with different ways of architecting a RAG system. But the actual vector database and stuff so far from just my experience is fairly similar, but there's really good like local versions. Like Weaviate has a commercial version, but also a local one that's really cool and like really good docs. I like the community there a lot too. But Chroma is a great one. Pinecone, I think Qdrant has a really good free tier if you want to try them. So said RAG would be a really good workshop. Yeah, I'll actually be doing so some people know me for workshops too, and where we actually go through and run kind of more line by line through code and make sure that everyone's actually running the project. So I have actually more workshops coming up too. If you're on Luma, you'll probably see an invite for them already if that's where you RCP'd. But if you want, like in a couple weeks, I'm actually doing agent workshop. So that's more structured. This is us more just discussing and like casually showing off stuff and more of a discussion. The workshop will be like, you can come and build this thing, and usually come away with kind of a, even if it's a relatively maybe simpler type of thing, but it's like a production grade application that you can extend into your work. So actually, I'll share the event for the next one if people are interested. It's going to be on building agents, which will be fun. It's going to be with LangGraph as well. So if you've used LangGraph, but you want to kind of make sure it can scale and actually be durable in a production sense, you can join that workshop. And then the other one I have scheduled, which I'll be scheduling more soon, so keep an eye out. If you do want to join them, I'll probably do a RAG one, LM fine-tuning one soon as well. But I also have a computer vision one. So I know there's all the LM hype and VLMs, which is awesome. But there's a lot of really cool applications on like traditional computer vision. That's a lot of my background as well, being able to like fine-tune a specific smaller model that you can deploy in a lot of different places and be really good at a task. So we're going to talk about that and do it with a DETR model, which is the detection transformer. So it is a transformer based one, but it's way more efficient than running like one of the billion parameter VLMs. And it'll be better on whatever you train it for, most likely. So those are the upcoming workshops. And then again, those are more structured where you come away with a built project. So if you have ideas for those too, let me know. So RAG one, I think is coming soon. And then some LM fine tuning. So like we talked about TRL, some of the other use cases like LoRa. I think actually that's going to be the next one that I haven't posted yet. We'll be fine tuning LMs with LoRa and QLoRa. Patrick said they hear a lot about Pinecone. Yeah, I think that's one of the databases that made vector databases that made a lot of hype. I haven't used them recently, but I think they also do a really good job of scaling, is what I've heard. Any other topic ideas? Throw them out there. Any other questions? Because we're kind of near the end of the stream time. So if you have any other topics or ideas that you want to discuss next time, or before we end the stream today, let me know. And if you have any other models, again, models versus other topics, we've kind of been going through several different types of things. So far, we started with MCP. We did agentic search with Tavili, which is kind of a cool search API tool. Then we did reinforcement learning with OpenEnv, which we even brought up again today. Last week, we did auto research, which is Andrej Karpathy's auto research concept. That was really fun, actually. That was cool. And then Gemma 4 this week, vector stores next week. What are the next ones? Again, I think a graph data is a graph database, like maybe right after the vector store one, actually, because they kind of go together really good. And one of the best ways, I think, too, for using a graph database, depending on how you're using it, but for like context or RAG, is using it in conjunction with a regular vector database. And then you pull in that context, and then from there you pull in the graph of how that data or chunk relates to other data and chunks. So I think they'll be really good to build on each other. So I'll probably do that one after this. And then there's a whole list in the Slack channel too of topics that people have been posting. So instead, does the future of local models look bright? I mean, I think so. I think this is I don't know if it was a lot of hype or good publicity, but this is the model that, I mean, you could see it coming with other models too, but this one seemed really, really exciting to me for local models. And then I'm hearing really good things about the Kimi 2.6 for coding. So I'm excited about local models. And I think also for specific tasks, they can be really good. Like if you're going to specifically write one to write a certain type of content or debug something very specifically, I think there's probably a lot of really cool use cases for open models. And then, and you'll find this out too, as you're building stuff, is a lot about building kind of the harness around it for that task too. Like when I was playing around with the Gemma for my coding project, obviously I had to start adding stuff in, like bringing context in, having the plan loop first, and then the coding part, and then reviewing it. And like Claude Code does a really good job of that. So it's kind of unfair to compare just an open model to something like Claude Code or Codex, because they actually have a lot of engineering around the harness part too, not just the model. But I think this is looking really good, in my opinion, for local models. So I think it looks bright. John, do you think it looks bright?
It already is. So I mean, it just continues to get better and better. You know, I think the challenge is how do you keep up, or are you able to, you know, actually rest at a particular phase for a while, and then let a month or 2 months go by, and then jump back in and not feel like you're significantly behind. You know, which I doubt you'll be able to do that. So it's, you know, as someone who's managed engineers and aspires to continue managing engineers, it's one of the biggest things as a manager I'll have to do is, you know, allow engineers to continue to grow, but also keep them productive and balance that really, really, really well. Because I think in this, you know, my wife has even recognized, like, man, you're spending a lot of time, you know, like, what are you doing with all that time? Well, I'm just playing with AI and it's fun. You know, that's not good enough, right? So that's the balance, but that's the new world. So, but it's fun, and I believe it has to, in some cases, it has to be a hobby. So yeah, there has to be joy in it in some capacity. So
it is hard to keep up, which not that it captures everything, because I can't keep up either, but I try to distill everything in like a weekly newsletter, which I'll post in the chat if people are curious too. And it's basically like a listicle of stuff that I thought was worth noting to call out that came out this week. Again, it's not perfect. There's sometimes I'll be like, oh, I didn't see this major thing, even though I was trying to keep up this week. But I try to put interesting stuff there, including like the latest research papers and podcasts and stuff. So if people are interested, you can check that out. And like Neil said, the best way to engage is build with it. Totally agree. So you should join the Slack channel or just stay up to date with these events and then build a project every week. I think it's cool having the stuff I built in the previous weeks. Again, like everything's not super perfect. These are things I built in some time I had on the side during the week. But they're really cool starting points that I could come back to and expand on. And I think even John, you expanded on like auto research or something, like you did updates to it. So
no, I'd encourage anybody on here, just, you know, don't be shy. I'm like all of this stuff for me. I spend most of my time in research mode and then in review mode. Pretty much all of the coding is Claude, and yeah, I inspect it, I look at it, basic software engineering best practices, modularity, not spending a lot of time on resiliency because these are, just proof of concepts or even, there's some security checks in there, but not a lot of exception handling, right? Just, show me, so, but I still tackle these projects with that frame of mind and let the agent do the work. And that's been a lot of fun. So.
Yeah. Cool. We're at basically time here, I think. So we'll probably wrap up the stream. Any other last questions from anybody? If not, I posted the link to the Slack channel. So join in there, engage with the community. I think there's over 5,000 people, maybe closer to 6,000 now in the Slack. Say hello. There's an introductions channel. So if you didn't get to say what you're working on, put it in the Slack. And then join in next week's project, which will be building with Vector Store. So again, you could pick whatever you want, Chroma, etc. And hopefully I'll see you then. Right. Thank you, John, too, for coming on always. It's been awesome. Talk to you all later.
Good work. Bye.